Hey everybody, it is the 2019 Comic-Con and I am with DMC, Darryl Mcdaniels, also the King of Rock. Many monikers, but lots of soul. There's so much to talk about, but you're at Comic-Con, you've been here several years in a row, you have your own comic book yourself. How'd that come about?
Well, prior to hip-hop coming over the bridge from the Bronx in 1978 into Queens, New York, all I did as a little kid was read, collect, and draw comic books. That was my whole life. Marvel comic books was a big part of it to me because DC was cool, but Metropolis and Gotham was fictional. Stan Lee put the superheroes really in New York, so it's real to me. I'm from Queens, Spider-Man's from Queens, so all of those things really related to me and resonated with me. Fast forward to about 3 years ago, I had a music meeting with this young man named Riggs Morales, who was Eminem's A&R over at Shady Records during the rise of that great empire. And he basically asked me, yo, what was it like when you was a little kid? And I said, well, all I used to do was read, collect, and draw comic books. And when I said comic books, we sat there, we didn't talk about no music or hip hop. We sat there and talked about comic books. And I mean, we went into everything. We talked about all the Kung Fu movies that Wu-Tang talked about. Bruce Lee, you know, Bruce Lee was like a superhero to us growing up, an icon, big part of the hip hop foundation. And then Riggs had just said, yo, you should do a comic book. And I said, why should I do a comic book? Because I didn't want to do another, I didn't want none of my fellow geeks and nerds mad at me by saying, oh, just because he had hit records, he's going to come mess up comic book culture. But Rick said, with the comic book, I could do the same thing I've done with my music. Inspire, motivate, educate, and entertain.
Absolutely, and if you look at it, if you look at like the old African Bambaataa album covers, yes, they were comic book related.
Exactly. The influence of comic books has continually been seen all throughout hip hop culture. From the beautiful pieces that the graffiti writers used to write on the trains, from our lyrics way back when. Perfect example, Rapper's Delight, Grandmaster Cash Rhyme talking about Superman and superheroes. And from the fact that mild-mannered regular people, boys and girls from the city of New York City, when they MC, when they break dance, when they write graffiti, or when they just throw in their fresh gear, we create these alter egos. So that was a big influence onto the successful presentation of hip-hop.
Sure, I mean, like off the top of my head, when I think of certain monikers that rappers have taken on, like MF Doom or Mr. Sinister.
Tony Starks.
Tony Starks, Iron Man, yes, yeah, Ghostface. So many of those things are created in hip-hop culture, and I think that the biggest similarity is that it's really about telling good stories. Do you agree?
Yes, I never wanted to be in show business. When I saw hip-hop, I was like, oh shoot, you could tell stories about who you are over music. So it was a way for me, Darryl Mcdaniels. I went to Catholic school my whole life. I was a straight-A student, I wore glasses, and I read comic books. So that perception outwardly wasn't considered as cool and hip. But hip-hop gave me the ability to get on the mic and talk about who I am, in a forceful, dynamic presentation that will make people believe whatever it is that I'm make-believing, that belief is true.
It's sort of like the mic is the thing, like Green Lantern's ring that gives you superpowers.
That's funny that you said that. My whole persona came about like this. I was sitting there one day and I was like, okay, Thor is the son of Odin from Asgard. He got a brother named Loki and he has a hammer. That's Thor. And I was like, I'm from Hollis, I got a father named Byford, I got a brother named Alfred, and I got a Mike. So 35 years ago, I became son of Byford, brother of Al. Banner's my mother and runs my pal. It's Mcdaniels, not McDonald's. These rhymes are Darryl's, those burgers are Ronald's. I ran down my family tree, my mother, my father, my brother, and me. So that was a way of me communicating, hey, I'm Darryl, I live in Queens, and here's my family. But I was able to present it to hip-hop in a storytelling way, like you just said.
Storytelling and art are so important to us, especially as a culture. I feel like not only did it give me superpowers to read these stories, but it gave me strength. I learned a lot through these comic books, through these internal struggles. And as a person, you've been very, very open about your struggles. Has the art now, not just the hip-hop, has that helped you at all?
Exactly. Now I'm realizing there was a purpose to the art. sort of like you're like a lethal weapon sitting there. The martial arts is called the martial arts, but it's all the arts that help a person spiritually and mentally and emotionally, as well as physically. So when I first became DMC, I was just doing it because it was something that, it was a form of self-expression. And by me expressing myself, I could relate to somebody who might not have an art to tell who they are, or to make it feel that they fit into this world. But fast forward, as I got successful performing my art, I started worrying about how other people's expectations of me. You know, instead of me saying I'm complete if I do this and if I do it the right way and I stick to my game plan, I'm starting to listen to all of these outside forces, which kind of took me off my game plan. But when my body and my soul started realizing something wasn't right, I didn't want to admit it. So I started drinking a lot. You know what I'm saying? So my artistic presentation of imagination and creativity and execution, I started looking to an outside force. And to make a long story short, I became an alcoholic, suicidal, metaphysical, depressed wreck. And it wasn't until I went and got sober when I could deal with myself. How do I feel emotionally? How do I feel spiritually? Which was affecting me physically. When I cleaned up myself, I kind of, like, you know, the cliche word, I saw the light. And then I realized, all right, I went through something that a lot of people don't survive through. So me being in this artistic presentation of rock and roll and hip hop, now my music has a purpose. So basically, I'm sick and tired of the pain and the hurt. I do this for Chester, Chris, and Kurt. Chester from Linkin Park, who killed himself, Chris Cornell, who killed himself, and Kurt Cobain, who killed himself. I'm sick and tired of the pain and the hurt. I do this for Chester, Chris, and Kurt. Death is appealing, with death I flirt. I tell the world how I feel, and they think I'm a jerk. I'm not bugging, I'm struggling. All this guzzling is puzzling, so I stop hanging with Jack and Jim to fight in a battle to show we all can win. I'm living proof, and many other people like me who ain't afraid to talk about the struggle that you can beat and defeat whatever it is that you're fighting against.
Very powerful words, and I appreciate you actually taking the time to talk to us about it. And I'll ask you one more thing before I let you go. I think the biggest thing with why people are suffering with depression and things like that is they don't know how to get themselves out, and they don't know how to talk about it, and they also feel weak, you know, and we all feel that we have to be strong all the time, especially in today's world. Yep. What do you tell them?
If you don't admit how you feel, whether good or bad, you never heal. And what I mean by that, we celebrate people that say, I feel like $1 million today. I could take on the world, and we all get excited. But the minute somebody says, I feel depressed, I feel anxiety, we go, oh, get away from me, weirdo, this and that. Do not be afraid to speak about how you feel, because you'll never heal. One of the things that you gotta understand, I don't look at you differently if you say, I got a toothache. You go to the dentist. If while you're doing your martial arts studies, you hurt your wrists, you're gonna go to the doctor to see what's the matter with it, right? I wear contacts now and I still wear glasses. I'm starting to notice that I need a stronger prescription. Something's wrong with my eyesight, I'm getting older. So I'm gonna go to the eye doctor. If it's anything dealing with this muscle, your mind and your feelings, don't be ashamed to speak up, because somebody somewhere is gonna be able to help you. It's not a form of weakness to show that you're vulnerable or have a problem or struggling. Matter of fact, it's a form of strength, because your weakness will lead you to your power. And I've discovered that.
And that is definitely some of the main themes that we see in great storytelling, in great lyrics, or great art. So check out Darryl's book, and it is called?
It is called 10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide, because you don't have to do it.
And the comic book, which is called?
DMC. The comic book company is called Darryl Makes Comics.
I'm Phoenix Carnevale. This is Everything Martial Arts. Thanks for tuning in.